Okay. Um so today I'm just going to be reviewing or rating and reviewing. I don't know, something like that. My NFL predictions. You know what? Let's just go. So, we'll start off with the Patriots. Yikes. 7-9, not great compared to my prediction of 10-6. I also have John's predictions up here too, but I'm not going to be focusing too much on them unless I see something that like interests me. So basically, yeah, bad prediction. So I'm going to be rating them on a 1 to 10 scale. This one I can't give a prediction this far off better than like a 5 out of 10. I'm going to give this a 3.5 because I also said that Cam Newton would be good and he wasn't. So that's the New England Patriots. Okay, the Buffalo Bills. This one was definitely better. So 13-3 was what their real record was. I predicted 11-5. To be honest, though, I don't really like this prediction. I don't know why I thought that the Bills would barely do better than they did last year. I honestly kind of think that that's a little bit dumb. I don't know why I thought that they were going to do worse. Or not worse, but barely do better. So I'd rate this like a 6.5 because even though it was kind of close, it's just something about it. It's just not right. Okay, so the Jets last year they went. Or sorry, my prediction was that they would go 6-10. They went 2-14. Now this prediction was pretty far off. So I can't give this more than like a 5. But to be honest, how could anyone really predict that they were tanking this year? They didn't even tank correctly. So I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this a 4.5. I'm gonna go a little easy on myself. So now we have the Dolphins. So I knew that they were gonna be better than they were last year. However, I don't know why this prediction was very far off. However, I don't think many people could have predicted that the Dolphins would do very good. So this is another one that I'm going to go a little bit easy on myself. I'll give this a 4. So, moving on, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I predicted they would go 13-3, but they ended up only going 11-5. Yikes. So, this prediction, I mean, I thought I was going to get this prediction right, because I thought the Ravens were going to be good again, but I think that they just had a little bit too much, you know. The Ravens are still a good football team, don't get me wrong, but they didn't do as good as they did last season. So I'm going to give this rating or ranking a 5.5. I'll give it a 5.5. So the Steelers, I predicted that they would go 8-8. They went 12-4. Now, I heard so many people. This one was the first one that I'm going to be really critical about myself with. Everybody predicted that the Steelers would be really good this season, but I was the only one that thought big brain mode, or what I thought was big brain mode. I said no, the Steelers are going to be just like they were the last 2 seasons. I was very wrong. They were a lot better this season. Well, they were until the end of the season. They lost 3 out of their last 4 games. and then got absolutely decimated by the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to give this I'll give it a 2.5. So the Browns. The Browns is another one. John actually got it right on the nose. 11-5. I don't know why. This is another team. I wasn't buying the hype. I just personally was not buying the Steelers hype. Or, sorry, the Browns hype. We're on the Browns now. I was not buying the Browns hype. I just didn't think that they were going to be that good. I thought they were going to do a little bit better since they weren't as hyped up as they were this year or last year. But 7-9 is just way too low. So I'm going to give this a 3. Moving on, we have the Bungles. This one was a pretty decent prediction. I said that they would go 4-12, and they ended up going 4-11-1. So I kind of got it right on the dot, but I also kind of didn't. It's really hard to predict a tie, so I was close. Okay, I thought that they were. I knew they weren't going to be a good team. I mean, I think anybody could have predicted that they weren't going to be a good team. So at this point, it's just how bad they were going to be is how you had to predict it. I thought that they were going to be bad, like a really bad team, but not first round pick bad. So I said 4-12. They went 4-11-1. I'll give this a 8.5. Okay, Houston Texans. Why do I keep saying last season? Nobody cares. That won't affect anything. I thought that they would go 7-8-1. I don't know why I put a tie. And then they ended up actually going 4-12. Let me do a little rant on the Texans. How does one team lose one wide receiver and then all of a sudden, just because they lost that one wide receiver, it's not even a quarterback, just one wide receiver, and they go from 10-6 to 4-12. I'm still amazed by how the Texans managed to do that. And now their star quarterback everybody wants to leave. So, don't get me wrong. I knew that they were going to be worse than they were last year. I didn't think that they were going to make the playoffs. But yikes, 4-12. I'll give this prediction a 4.5. I guess it wasn't terrible considering that. I don't think anyone would have thought that the Texans were going to be this bad. So I'll give this a 4.5. Okay. This is the first one that I think I only got 2 actually right on the dot. The Titans. I predicted that they would go 11-5. They actually went 11-5. I knew that they were going to be better than 9-7 because I think their record did not show how good the team actually was. I think the team is a lot better than it ended up being, or than the record showed last year. So I predicted that they would go 11-5. I got it right on the dot. Obviously, it's a 10 out of 10 if it's a correct prediction. So, yeah. So next, we have the Colts. I thought that they would go 9-6-1. They ended up going 11-5. This one was sort of close. I was close on losses. I didn't think that Phillip Rivers would make the team that much better. But, I was thinking, maybe they would do a little bit of help. And he would do a little bit of help, but he did a lot more than help that team. He got them to the playoffs. So I'll give this prediction a 7.5. So next we have the Jaguars. I predicted that they would go 3-13. They ended up going 1-15, securing the number 1 pick. 3-13. That is a fairly decent prediction. I knew that they lost a lot of people. I knew that they weren't going to do any better than 6-10. 3-13 I thought was the safest one, but 1-15, dang. That's pretty bad. So I'll give this prediction a 5.5. All right, the Chiefs, I thought they would go 13-3. They ended up going 4-2. I don't really know exactly how I'm supposed to do this prediction. Everybody knew that the Chiefs were going to be good this year. The hard part about predicting is exactly where their record would be. 3 John with the 7-9. Okay, that's a 0 right there. But no, my prediction, I would give it like who are the two teams the Chiefs lost against? They lost against the Raiders, and then they lost against the Chargers. But I mean, that game wasn't really. That was kind of almost to see what your backups could do. Because let's be honest, if the Chiefs put out their starters, they would have actually absolutely destroyed the Chargers. So I'll give this one. I'll give it like a 6.5. Okay, the Broncos. I thought that they would go 7-9. They ended up going 5-11. So I wasn't buying the Broncos hype. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, they're going to be a really good team." I said, "No, I think they're just going to be the same that they were last season." However, I didn't think they would do this bad. They did worse than they did last season. Oh, the Broncos are going to make the playoffs. The Broncos are going to make the playoffs. And then they literally did worse than they did last season. So now, hear me out. They did have a couple injuries. But yeah, that's pretty bad. So, since I was like the only one to think that the Broncos wouldn't be underdogs and that they'd still just go 7-9, I'll give this prediction a 7. I'll give it a 7. All right. So I thought that the Steelers would go. Oh my God! Read the name. The Raiders would go 6-10. They ended up going 8-8. This is another hard one to rate because at the end of the day, this was a really stupid prediction. However, I was still close. So I don't really know where to rank it or rate it because 8-8 is like I don't know why I thought that they would do worse than they did last year. So that's kind of stupid. But then I was only 2 games off, so I'll say 5. This was a stupid prediction, but it was close, so I'll give it a 5. Chargers. I thought that they would go 4-12. They ended up going 7-9. That was confusion, not 7-9, as in like just saying 7-9. Yeah, they went 7-9. They had a 4-game winning streak at the end of the season. My prediction was on track to be correct. They started out 3-9, and then they decided to win their last 4 games of the season and go 7-9. I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I wasn't that close for this one, but I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I'll give it the same as the Raiders. I'll give it a 5. So now the Eagles. The Eagles, I thought that they would go 11-5, and then they actually went 4-11-1. Yeah, this only gets like a 2. I'm not even gonna explain why. It just gets a 2. So the Cowboys, I thought that they would go 9-7. They actually went 6-10. I didn't think that they would lose Dak Prescott. I think if you factor in just the fact that they lost Dak Prescott. However, I think one player, once again, like I said with DeAndre Hopkins, one player shouldn't affect the whole team's performance. So I'm going to give this a 4. I'll give it a 4. Giants. Giants I was close on. Giants was pretty close. I said 5-11. They ended up going 6-10. Now, I'm not sure how to do this one because at the end of the day, I never thought that the Giants would be in contention for winning the division. I thought that they were just gonna have another like below average season. But they ended up being in contention, which is why I'm not gonna rank this as good as it would have if you just looked at the record. So I'll give it a 7. No, I'll give it a 7.5. All right, whoa! I did not change that helmet. Whoops! I did not. I did not want to change the helmet. Sorry about that. What if I put the mouse cursor? Okay, the mouse cursor is not even close to big enough. But anyways, hang on. What if I do this? You can't see it. I don't know. So I think that the Washington football team 3-13. They ended up going 7-9. That's a pretty bad prediction. However, in my defense, once again, just like I said with the Giants, I didn't know that they were going to be in contention for the division. Therefore, I'm only going to give it a 4. So, Packers, I thought that they would go 11-5. They ended up doing just the same as their last season, and they went 13-3. His prediction wasn't terrible, although I don't know why I thought that they would do worse than they did last year. That's kind of dumb, so I'm going to give this a 7. So the Vikings, I thought that they would go 10-6. They ended up going 7-9. So I'm not really sure what happened with the Vikings this year. They had a good, here's the thing with the Vikings. They're following this pattern where they have one good season, then one season where they barely miss the playoffs, then another good season, then another season where they miss the playoffs. It's following in that pattern. So I guess maybe I thought that pattern wouldn't actually happen. So I'm going to give this a 4. Okay, Bears, I was close. I was close on the Bears. I thought they would go 9-7. They ended up going 8-8, just like they did last season, except they made the playoffs this year. So 9-7, I think, was a pretty safe prediction. I thought that they had a little bit of an off year last year. I thought they would do a little bit better. So, but they ended up going 8-8. But I think this was a pretty good prediction, considering everybody thought that they would be down in the dumps. So I'm going to give this an 8. Okay, the Lions, I thought that they would go 4-12. They ended up going 5-11. Not much really to talk about on this prediction. Just I saw a couple people. They thought that the Lions might actually be somewhat decent this season. I was not buying any of that. Now, they did a little bit better than they did last year. So I'm going to give this a... Ooh, this one's hard. 6.5 or 7. I'll give it... I guess since I was close, I'll give it a 7. So the Saints... I've predicted that they would go 11-5. They ended up going 12-4. A pretty good prediction. It's still, once again, just a little bit. I underestimated them just a tiny bit. So I think, I still think this was a decent prediction. So I'll give this an 8. All right, the Falcons, I thought they would go 9-7. And they ended up going 4-12. All right, no explanation for this one. I'm just going to give this a 2.5. Okay, the Buccaneers. So I thought that they would go 8-8. They ended up going 11-5 while John was that biased rating. So yeah, it's just I don't know why I thought that they wouldn't do as good. I thought that Tom Brady wasn't going to do as good because I thought that based on his performance with the Patriots in his last season that he just really regressed. Um, but no, he did not. He had himself a good football year, a good football season. So I'll give this like um, I was off by quite a bit, so I'll give it a 5. Panthers, I thought they would go 3-13, and they actually went 5-11. John 12-4. Okay, so yeah, I was off by 2 games, and I knew that they were going to be bad, but I don't know why I thought that they were going to be super bad. I mean, they still had a decent team. I don't think that I considered that they had Christian McCaffrey. Now Christian McCaffrey only played 2 games or 1 game. I don't even know how many games he played. So technically that didn't affect anything. But I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Okay, the 49ers. I thought that they would go 11-5, and then they actually went 6-10. On paper, this looks like the most dumb prediction. But if you think about it, they had a lot of injuries. So I'm actually only going to give this a 3.5. Okay, so the Seahawks, I thought that they would go 11-5. They ended up going 12-4. Pretty close prediction. They did a little bit better than they did last year. And yeah, really not much to say about this prediction. Solid 8.5. Okay. This is my least favorite prediction out of all of them. I thought that they would go 6-10. Oops. 6-10. And they ended up going 10-6. I'm going to do a little ranting here. Why would I think that a Rams team who didn't really lose that much, why would I think that they would do so much worse? I'll give that like a 1.5. And then this is my best prediction, which ironically follows right after my worst prediction. I thought that the Cardinals would go 8-8. They went 8-8. This is probably my favorite one out of all of the ones that I did, because nope, I think a lot of people thought that the Cardinals wouldn't do very good. A lot of people were saying that they'd still be like top 10 for draft pick. But I thought that they were actually going to do decent, because I thought that they got a good draft pick and they DeAndre Hopkins, and I thought Kyler Murray, he's a year older. He's not in his rookie season anymore. So I thought he would be playing a little bit better. And I got it right on the dot, 8-8. I didn't think that they'd be Super Bowl contending, but I did think that they would barely make the playoffs or barely miss the playoffs. And they barely missed the playoffs. But yeah, so 8-8. So if I had to do my best and worst prediction, to be honest, this is my best prediction. And Rams or Raiders? I'm gonna go with the Rams because it was way more off. This was a lot farther off than the Raiders one. So that's going to do it for this video. So I wasn't too great at my predictions for this season. So yeah, that's going to do it. See you guys in the